At first, the raise felt like freedom. More margin, less stress, more room to breathe. Then it became the new normal. Your rent adjusted upward, your car payment followed, vacations upgraded without a meeting. Bonuses stopped feeling extra. They started feeling required. Nothing dramatic happened, you just became calibrated to a higher burn rate. Now your income looks impressive on paper, but it has to repeat because expensive lives need predictable money, and predictable money rarely gives you leverage. You wake up inside a life that runs on schedule. Salary hits twice a month without negotiation. Bills leave automatically without discussion. Your calendar fills itself weeks ahead. You tell yourself this is stability. The system feels smooth because nothing surprises you. Every expense has a category, every category has a number. Your housing cost reflects your income tier, your car signals progress, your subscriptions scale with your status, insurance coverage expands with your assets. None of it feels reckless, it feels earned. You built this step by step. Each raise justified a small expansion. Each promotion unlocked a better version of normal. The upgrades felt responsible at the time. Friends adjusted their expectations upward, family assumed you were secure. Your identity hardened around consistency. Higher income meant higher standards. Higher standards meant higher fixed costs. Higher fixed costs made consistency mandatory. The gap between zero income and your lifestyle widened. That gap rarely enters your thoughts. You do not think about exit options. You think about maintaining rhythm. Missing one paycheck would not ruin you. Missing several would start conversations you do not want. So you optimize for reliability. You show up on time, you protect performance reviews, you avoid friction. You accept projects that reinforce your reputation. You decline risks that threaten progression. Your lifestyle requires your role. Your role requires predictability. Predictability becomes the priority. It does not feel like pressure. It feels like adulthood. The machine runs quietly, and you are proud that it does. This arrangement feels intelligent. High income is supposed to equal control. More money should mean more options. That's the equation. You worked hard to increase your earning power, so protecting that income feels rational. Stability becomes proof of maturity. Volatility starts to look irresponsible. You tell yourself you're buying flexibility for later. You just need a few more strong years, a few more bonuses, a larger buffer, security first. It sounds disciplined, it sounds patient, it sounds like strategy. Delayed freedom feels noble, immediate risk feels careless. People around you reinforce it. Managers praise consistency, banks reward documented income. Lenders prefer predictability over potential. Recruiters highlight compensation bands, not autonomy. The market does not reward freedom, it rewards reliability. Predictable earners are easier to model. Easy to model means easier to approve, so you lean into what works. You deepen specialization. You increase responsibility. You become harder to replace. Harder to replace means higher pay. Higher pay means higher dependency. Dependency rarely feels dangerous at first. It feels like gravity. The higher you climb, the heavier expectations become. That weight hides inside the belief. You assume income equals leverage, but income is only leverage if it can pause. If it cannot pause, it is maintenance. Maintenance feels safe. Maintenance keeps the machine running, and running feels like progress. The system does not need you trapped, it needs you consistent. Consistency makes forecasting easier. Forecasting makes planning easier. Planning increases stability. Your predictable output feeds that cycle. In return, you receive predictable pay. The exchange feels fair. The alignment runs deeper than salary. Health insurance ties to employment, retirement matches reward tenure, equity vests over time. Time becomes the binding agent. The longer you stay, the more you unlock. Leaving early resets the clock. Resetting the clock feels expensive. So tenure becomes strategy. Strategy becomes duration. Duration increases exposure to fixed costs. Fixed costs increase reliance on continued employment. The incentives stack quietly. Annual raises reward staying inside the lane. Bonuses reward hitting predefined targets. Targets are set above you. You optimize inside boundaries you did not design. Performance reviews reward risk avoidance. Promotions reward scope expansion. Scope expansion reduces idle capacity. Idle capacity is where optionality lives. Optionality does not show up on metrics. Reliability does. So you optimize for visible value. Visible value locks you into defined lanes. Defined lanes increase efficiency. Efficiency reduces slack. Less slack means fewer experiments. Fewer experiments mean fewer alternate paths. The system calls this growth. Growth increases your compensation band. Compensation bands raise your baseline lifestyle. Baselines rarely move downward voluntarily. Each reward tightens alignment. The design is clean. Predictability in exchange for reward. Reward in exchange for commitment. Commitment in exchange for time. Time in exchange for control. Nothing about this feels dramatic. You are compensated well. The trade-off hides inside comfort. High income reduces short-term stress. It increases long-term obligation. Obligation grows through fixed commitments. Mortgage terms stretch across decades. Car payments stretch across years. Tuition planning begins before children arrive. Insurance coverage scales with asset value. These commitments assume continuity. Continuity assumes ongoing performance. Ongoing performance assumes stable demand. That assumption rarely gets audited. You exchange volatility for dependency. Dependency does not show up on pay stubs. It shows up in hesitation. You hesitate to challenge leadership. You hesitate to downshift income. You hesitate to experiment publicly. The cost of miscalculation rises with lifestyle scale. A smaller life absorbs shocks easier. A larger life requires precision. Precision reduces freedom of movement. Freedom of movement is leverage. Leverage requires the ability to withstand gaps. Gaps become dangerous at higher burn rates. Your burn rate tracks your status. Status feels like progress. Progress increases surface area. More surface area means more to protect. Protection becomes a daily priority. You begin managing downside more than pursuing upside. Downside management narrows acceptable choices. Narrow choices reduce flexibility. Flexibility is quiet power. Power fades when commitments multiply. You gain income stability. You lose tolerance for disruption. Tolerance is the foundation of control. Without tolerance, control becomes illusion. The constraint is not your salary. The constraint is your calibration. Your life recalibrated around a higher minimum requirement. That minimum defines your acceptable risk. Risk below that line feels manageable. Risk above that line feels reckless. The line keeps moving upward. Each raise shifts it higher. Each upgrade normalizes the shift. Normalization hides escalation. Escalation increases required income velocity. Velocity must stay constant to avoid friction. Friction exposes fragility. Fragility creates urgency. Urgency reduces negotiation power. Negotiation power depends on walking away. Walking away requires financial slack. Slack disappears at high burn rates. Burn rate expands with lifestyle visibility. Visibility increases social expectation. Social expectation reinforces continuity. Continuity reinforces dependence on structured pay cycles. Structured pay cycles favor employers. Employers design roles around replaceable functions. Replaceable functions cap autonomy. Autonomy shrinks as responsibility grows. Responsibility locks you into specific domains. Domain depth increases income. Income depth increases specialization. Specialization narrows transferable leverage. Narrow leverage reduces outside options. Outside options are the core of control. Control weakens when alternatives shrink. Fewer options increase perceived risk. Higher perceived risk strengthens compliance. Compliance sustains the system. The mechanism is quiet. You rise in income, your floor rises with you. The floor becomes a ceiling. Ceilings limit movement.